Hello there. Welcome to my show, COVID-19 update by Heerak. And today is a new year. Yeah, can I get a five on the new year? Can I get a five? Yeah, it's year 2021, January 1st, 2021. I know you feel like your clocks are melting, time is melting, everything is kind of blending together. But it is a new year, January 1st, 2021. Um, as you know, like Times Square was closed off for New Year's Eve. You see how empty the streets are there? Happy New Year 2021. Yeah, it's COVID-19 America, unfortunately. We have like 4,000 people dying every day right now. And I'm Heerak Christian Kim, candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, which includes Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. I'm running for the election on November 8th, 2022. And so I am hoping to win. So hopefully you'll vote for me. Um, yeah, so the 2 years of campaigning, I'm calling it 2 years of COVID-19 hell in Virginia's 8th district. you know, a lot of people are going to die in Arlington County, City of Alexandria, City of Falls Church, and Fairfax County, Virginia 8th district includes part of Fairfax County. A lot of people are going to die. It's January 1st. We have January to go, February to go, March to go for winter. And then you know how many people died in April last year in New York. That's going to be like that everywhere in America this year. May, part of May, probably more than half the month of May will be bad. And towards maybe Memorial Day, things may ease up, but maybe not so much because, as you remember, Texas, Florida, and California, so hundreds of deaths in June, spike in COVID. Um, it is a 365 days of a year virus. So it's probably going to be the worst spring, winter, and in flu season, especially because there's going to be a lot of flu deaths as well. But and other types of wintry illnesses. But COVID-19 is a 365 days a year. Heat doesn't really kill it. Cold doesn't really kill it. So yeah, even in June, July, August, we're going to have a lot of COVID-19. But a redeeming feature of summer is that you can be outside and there's no ceiling. So, COVID-19 particles kind of fly away as long as you're not too close to people. They disperse, diffusion, right? Principles of diffusion in science. So that's one thing that you can look forward to in summer. But obviously, if you're close, you're going to get it. That's the unfortunate thing about COVID-19. If you're close, you could get it. Yeah, that's the sad thing about COVID-19. Today is January 1st, so as you can see, not everybody is reporting. Some people are hungover from New Year's Eve. Some people went to secret parties in their city or their town, or maybe they drove for a secret party. So, after New Year's Eve, people are kind of hungover. Some people probably drunk themselves to a stupor in their own home. you know. Um, so, and New Year's is a big holiday, so not everybody's reporting. Even so, 1,806 people have been reported to have died. Obviously, many states haven't really reported. So we'll get more figures like in the days ahead. Um, but yeah, it's bad in America. We have like 4,000 deaths per day right now. So yeah, I'm sure over 4,000 people have died the last 24 hours as well, but it's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, so not everybody's reporting. So right now, our death toll in America stands at 347,542. Our cases, we broke 20 million Still we're less than 10% because 10% of America's population would be like 33 million because we have 330 million Americans over that. But you know, not everywhere in America is as bad as other parts of America, although most of America is pretty bad right now because college is open. So students from states with a lot of COVID cases spread it to their college towns. So we have COVID everywhere. Like even Utah is seeing like over 4,000 cases per day. So if they have 4,000, 5,000 cases per day, at flu season, 10% death, they're gonna have 500 people die per day. You know, the 5,000 cases will result in like 500 deaths in the winter. So that's something to be expected in Utah. But, you know, and Utah is not a state with a lot of cases, you know. Virginia also had over 5,000 cases, which means at flu season, 10% death rate. You know, about 500 of them will die in the next, 4 to 8 weeks. So that's something to be expected. So in the 2 days, we had 5,000 each, so 10,000 cases. So we're gonna have 1,000 people from those 2 days die in the next 4 to 8 weeks, 8+ weeks. So that's something that we can expect in Virginia. And that's why, you know, police are kind of cracking down. You see police, you know, kind of crashing a karaoke party in Queens, New York. And, you know, police are kind of easy about it, you know, but they're scared too. A lot of police officers are getting COVID and dying. But it's not like that everywhere in the world. In many parts of the world, there are 0 deaths every day. Yeah. So China is one of these countries where they have 0 deaths every day. So their economy is functioning at 100% because no one's dying from COVID. No one's really getting COVID in China. So they could live a normal life, you know? They could go to school normally without fear of getting COVID because they have 0 cases in most areas. They have 0 death in the whole country of China, which is like 1.2 billion people every day. So they live a life that's normal. Their economy is functioning normally. Even though they have 0 death, Chinese people take precautions, you know? Like they wear a mask in public, even though there's no cases of COVID in their city. Maybe that's why they don't have any cases or deaths, you know, in most days. You know, they have few cases and no death. And so, so like on New Year's Eve, everywhere in China, everybody was partying it up. Look at Wuhan, where coronavirus started 1 year ago. They did a strict quarantine, locking everything down, not allowing anybody to move anywhere. And they got rid of COVID completely. That's how you get rid of, viruses, right? Or pandemic, because they spread people to people. If it's not spreading from person to person, they die out. But so China, you know, Wuhan, there's like no COVID. So people are partying it up. And there's no problem there. You see? They're like partying it up on New Year's Eve. We could have been like that had we quarantined New York when there was a lot of cases, completely blocked off New York from the rest of the country and made sure COVID died out, then we would also possibly be a country with 0 COVID death. But that's not the case right now. We have 4,000 dying every day. In January, I'm predicting that we will have about 10,000 people die every day. In 3 days, we have like 10,000 people die. So from 3 days having 10,000 people die to like 1 day having 10,000 people die, it's not that much of a stretch. You see what I'm saying? But as I said, like, you know, there are parts of the world where no one is dying. So one area in the world where it's kind of like that is China, area around China. Obviously, China is 0 death per day normally. So I thought maybe we should look at countries near China and see what the situation is, just to compare with our country. it started from China. We're calling it China virus or Wuhan virus because that's where it originated. So what's the situation like right now near China and in China? In China and near China. So we picked our countries and we ranked them in the order of most cases. Japan is number one for countries that surround China with 239,038 cases, only 3,341 deaths, 1% death, right? Few cases, few deaths, less cases than Virginia and less death than the state of Virginia. Less cases than the state of Maryland, less death than the state of Maryland. You see? So that's a whole country of Japan, which is like 100 million people. Number two is China with 96,005 cases, most of it from like when it started in Wuhan. And the deaths are at 4,782, which is like basically all from when it started from Wuhan before they did the quarantine and when people start dying out in quarantine. So deaths are few, right? In China, population of 1.2 billion people. But the death percentage is 5% because it spread at that time. Now it's not spreading at all in China. So Chinese economy is 100% functional. Nothing has shut down. Nobody is dying. No businesses are going bankrupt. Nobody's getting fired because of COVID. 100% operational economy, China. And so it seems like China may become number one economy in the world by default. Because obviously, when 4,000 people are dying in America, you have several things happening. Number one, workers are dying. Obviously, you have to replace the workers who die. That takes time, money, and energy. So it cuts into economic efficiency at the micro and macro levels. Number two, businesses will have to close because workers are getting COVID and it's spreading among the workers. They're all facing possible death. So businesses have to close, which means they cannot produce stuff during that time or make money during that time. In which case the businesses will have to go bankrupt. And that's happening in all 50 states. Number three, you have businessmen who have to pay back loans to the bank. Those businessmen borrow money, make the money, pay the loan back, and they take out a loan continuously to improve their company. So the problem is now that nothing's really coming in, their business is going bankrupt. And so you have businesses who declare bankruptcy and which are collapsing all over America. And that's going to happen throughout year 2021, 365 days a year, because COVID-19 is forever, is never going away. And vaccines will not work because COVID-19 is mutating constantly. And COVID-19 will recognize the vaccines and they will mutate to evade it. So eventually COVID-19 will mutate in all 50 states to evade every single vaccine that's out there. And that could happen in a matter of hours, days, and so none of them will work. Because there are thousands of strains that mutating simultaneously. And their goal is to evade the vaccine and infect you and kill you. So none of the vaccines will work. That's why quarantine is the only way you can get rid of a virus or pandemic. And ironically, that's what we have been saying for hundreds of years. But China put that to the practice. We have that in theory, but we did not put that into practice, so we're suffering. So we have the knowledge, but China applied our knowledge. They took our knowledge, applied it. So now they're 100% operational. Had we applied the knowledge we have, knowledge that we built for hundreds of years, then we would be 100% operational right now. I mean, we have movies like Outbreak. Go and see movies like Outbreak. So we know what to do to flatten the curve and get rid of the virus. But we didn't do it, right? Joe Biden wants to open up schools. You know, so we know Joe Biden's going to make the situation worse because, as you know, I'm Heerak Christian Kim, candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District for 2022 election, 2 years from now. And I've been calling on all the schools to go 100% online. But these Democrat governors like Cuomo and in New York and Newsom in California, they want to keep the schools open. And that's the problem. You cannot get rid of the virus if you keep the schools open. It's impossible because virus transmits people to people. Until you end the transmission, you're not going to get rid of it. Vaccines are not going to work. So yeah, we're going to have it forever. Now, yeah, it's bad. Obviously, China can get reinfected with COVID. A bunch of Americans fly into China and start infecting Chinese people with COVID and it spreads to their, like if a UK strain of COVID arrives in China and starts spreading, China again can have like a lot of cases and deaths. But right now, China is able to keep COVID out of the country by strict controls, you know. Yeah, so they only have 4,782 deaths in the whole country of 1.2 billion people. South Korea, where I immigrated from to the United States, has 61,769 cases, 917 deaths. So 1% death rate. Yeah, so a lot of people in America are dying, but less than 1,000 people have died in South Korea. Yeah, and it's a country right next to China. So you can guarantee Japan's economy is 100% operating. Nobody has been fired because of COVID. South Korea is the same. Nobody has been fired because of COVID. No businesses have gone bankrupt because of COVID. Vietnam, 1,474 cases, 35 deaths. You can guarantee Vietnam's economy is functioning 100% maximum. Nobody got fired because of COVID. Nobody's dying because of COVID, really, from day to day. Yeah. How about Taiwan? Number 5, 802 people got COVID. 7 people have died so far. Taiwanese economy is functioning 100% at economy. I mean, these countries, even if they suck at producing stuff, just because they're producing stuff, they're going to sell it. They're going to outsell their competitors in America and Germany, France, Italy, United Kingdom, Ireland, Holland, Spain, Greece, you know, Denmark, just because they don't have any COVID. They're just producing. They could produce inferior quality products and people still buy them because all these high quality companies are not producing right now because of COVID. Yeah, so that's the reality we are. You know, at the end of the day, who survives is the winner, right? It doesn't matter how good you are. If there are 100 people and 99 die, the suckiest person will become the winner. You know, I recently saw a movie. I thought it was kind of funny. I would encourage you to see it. It's a pretty funny movie. And it's called Eurovision. And Eurovision. You know, it has American actors. They're funny actors, but they're pretending to be Icelandic. Like the movie takes place in Iceland. And there's 2 childhood friends who team up to become Iceland's contestant for Eurovision contest, which is like, you know, singing contest in Europe. It's funny, but, you know, I don't want to give away all the ending and everything, but you know, they luck out, sort of called luck out because they're the only contestants remaining. So then end up representing the country. You have to see the movie. It's called Eurovision on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix original movie. It's a pretty funny movie, you know. So I would encourage you to see it. Yeah, sometimes, the one standing is the one who wins. If you have 100 people, 99 die, the one who's standing wins because the person is standing, you know? Um, yeah, to be standing is the important point, and so, yeah, it's, life is like that sometimes. So I would encourage you to watch that, just to get an idea of what that means. So in the same way, it doesn't matter if United States, United Kingdom, Ireland, Spain, Italy, Germany, France have the best companies, produce the best products. At the end of the day, a company that stands is the one that is able to produce and sell and don't have their workers dying. You see what I'm saying? So eventually, products from China will infiltrate the world because they're operating at 100% economy. Yeah, unless like you prevent your citizens from buying Chinese products, Chinese products will infiltrate the world, and China will make all the money that U.S. companies would have made had they are operational. European companies would have made had they been operational. And so all the wealth of Europe and America will go to China and these countries which are able to manufacture goods because nobody's dying from COVID. So at the end of the day, flattening the curve is vital to survival. And that's something that I think Joe Biden doesn't understand because he wants to open up schools and we haven't flattened the curve yet. He wants to keep COVID-19 spreading in schools. And that's why, America is destined to be destroyed, unfortunately, because we know vaccines are not going to work because virus constantly mutates. So even if you get a vaccine, you still have to you have to do the exactly same thing because you don't know when the virus is mutating. You don't know when your vaccine in your system is obsolete, even if it works. So you know what I mean? Like, let's say you're like acting normally because of the vaccine, and there are dozens of strains that mutated and that infect you, then you die from COVID. So it doesn't matter if you get a vaccine, you still have to do the exact same thing you're doing now before the vaccine. You can never live a normal life. That's why I didn't get vaccinated. I had the chance to get the first batch of vaccine in Virginia, because I'm a registered nurse at Virginia Hospital Center. I hope you come to Virginia Hospital Center if you have an emergency or need hospital care. You may have me as a nurse. And I'm a really good nurse, so you'll be very lucky if you have me as a nurse. But yeah, vaccines are not going to work. That's why I didn't get the vaccine. I don't plan to get the vaccine. Because why inject myself with an experimental vaccine that's going to be outdated when COVID mutates? I'm just injecting stuff into my system and it's going to be outdated. Only thing that's going to remain in my system is this experimental vaccine, and God knows what it's going to do in my body. That's why I didn't get the vaccine. I'm not going to get the vaccine. If I thought the vaccine would work, I'll get it. You see what I'm saying? But I know it won't work from a scientific perspective because COVID mutates. And a lot of variants have not been identified yet. The only way to get rid of COVID is quarantining. That's the only way. And that comes from our science. It doesn't come from Chinese science. It comes from 100 centuries of research in America and Europe about pandemics, but we're just not using the principles we should use to get rid of the virus. Vaccines will not work when the viruses are mutating constantly like this. And scientists know this. They know it won't work. Why do you think United Kingdom is delaying the second batch? Yeah, they know what's going on. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we did not follow our own science, hundreds of years of research and quarantine our New York. Now we all will end up suffering. I called on colleges to go 100% online in August, trying to reduce COVID-19 spread, to close down all the schools and have them go 100% online. And some idiots start talking about mental health, blah, 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 blah. And they open schools. Now, not because of that, more people are going to die. Yeah, these idiots, they don't know what they're talking about. In global pandemic, the priority is to make sure people don't get virus and die. That has to be the absolute priority. Nothing else matters. Because who cares if you have a PhD? If you die from COVID, you're dead. Staying alive is the most important thing. Stay alive, stay alive. You know the song. John Travolta song. His wife, unfortunately, was not able to stay alive during COVID. I mean, that just shows you even stars have family members died during COVID-19 America. And John Travolta spent Christmas alone, and I think he shared the video of his his Christmas without his wife. Yeah, so and that's going to be many of you. Many of you are going to lose your wife to COVID-19 death. Many of you are going to lose your children to COVID-19 death because we did not follow the science and quarantine in April when we needed to. Well, President Trump wanted to quarantine, but Andrew Cuomo, the Democratic governor, is like, over my dead body, you go to quarantine New York. Thank you, Andrew Cuomo. You're it. You're the one who gave us this. You created the situation for us in the world, in America. Not in the world, because obviously in Japan, China, South Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan, they don't have anybody dying every day normally. Quarantine works, and quarantine is necessary. Yeah, right now, I mean, we can impose a quarantine. We would have to use the U.S. military to do it. It's hard. It's hard, So if we don't quarantine, then you can expect COVID-19 forever. The vaccines are not going to work. As long as it's spreading from person to person, mutating, COVID-19 is going to spread forever. It's like HIV virus. It's forever. It's not ever going away. Hepatitis C virus, it's forever. It's been around for decades. HIV has been around for decades, never going away. So COVID-19 is going to be like this. Yeah. Obviously, China doesn't have any cases, but it has to live in the fear that it could get it. So the world has changed. As long as your country doesn't have it, if you shut off your country to everyone else, and then quarantine everybody who comes to your country with COVID, then you can keep the COVID low or at zero, right? Quarantine system works. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Sometimes you make fatal flaws that cost you your nation. So today's title is China parties like it's 2021. So Wuhan, once world's COVID-19 epicenter, celebrates 2021 with large crowds. Yeah, they don't have COVID, zero COVID in the city. So this is written by Elizabeth Elizalde in New York Post today, January 1st, 2021. The Chinese city of Wuhan, and you're listening to Chinese music in the background, once the world's epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak, saw large crowds taking to the streets to ring in the New Year's. Photos of the festivities show some revelers wearing masks and little to no social distancing as they release balloons in the air at the Hanlo Custom House, a popular New Year's Eve spot in Wuhan, according to Reuters. It's like Times Square, which was locked off to people this year. The festivities come a year after the World Health Organization said it first received an alert about a cluster of pneumonia cases in Wuhan, which later became the world's first novel coronavirus outbreak. Back in New York, Times Square was a ghost town where police closed off the area. Yeah. Civilizations rise and fall. As you know, I'm an expert of history, and I taught Western civilization at UCLA. It's like a required series. They have like required series of courses, and you can take Western civilization course that I taught to fulfill your requirement at UCLA. And we see civilizations rise and fall. And there's a 90% chance that COVID-19 will destroy Western civilization as we know it. I mean, it's not like, some people will survive. And there may be a nation that's like Germany, but it's not going to be the same Germany of present time. And, 1/3 of its population can die, as in like Black Plague during the Middle Ages. These things can happen in the next decade or so. But you're going to see Western civilization go down. It's inevitable. My recommendation to save America, because I love America, that's why I'm running for US Congress, is to produce respirators as next generation, supposing that this COVID-19 will be forever, so that we can wear these respirators that are next generation and live our life. But US government has not taken my recommendation, and Department of Defense has not taken my recommendation. Unfortunately, Homeland Security hasn't taken my recommendation. It's a simple mask will not prevent COVID-19 because it's a airborne virus. So, like simple masks that you make at home will protect you only like what, 30%, 40%, maybe 50%. I mean, it still protects you, but a lot of people will still get infected if they talk close with people with your homemade masks. If you stay away like 6 feet with your homemade mask, you probably won't get infected. But if you're like close, you'll get infected. I mean, but if you're inside a room, inside in a small confined space, even if you're 6 feet away, you may get it. Like a small room or a classroom, like in your elementary school, your child's elementary school, middle school, high school. Yeah, you'll probably get it even with the mask, keeping 6 feet apart. Yeah, it's bad. COVID-19 can end Western civilization as we know it, which is sad. I mean, people exist, but the civilization will no longer be what it was. Yeah, yeah, these things happen in history. Iran was the greatest civilization at one time, Persian Empire. And look at Iran now. I mean, it's still pretty good, but compared to America, it's nothing. But it used to be the #1 empire in the world, Persian Empire, rise and fall of the Persian Empire. So we would be kind of like Iran. We reached our height of our empire, and then we start falling. We will exist as a nation, but probably like a second nation or even a third nation. It depends on how much of a poverty level we'll have 10 years later, after 10 to 30% of our population dies from COVID. Unfortunately, that could happen. That's why I created this show, to save you and your children from COVID-19. I'm giving recommendations to close schools down, universities down, to prevent the end of our civilization. But senators are not taking my advice. House of Representative members are not taking my advice. Governor Cuomo, he's like opening all the New York schools. He's spreading COVID everywhere in New York. How are you going to end the COVID-19 like that? These Democrat governors don't know what they're doing. Why do you think I'm running for U.S. Congress? I'm trying to save your life. I'm trying to save my country, America, from destruction. That's why you should vote for me. You should have voted. Well, the problem was the COVID-19 screwed up the election system, the court system in 2020, and which is tragic. I should have become congressman. You needed me in U.S. Congress to save you. So it's tragic that COVID-19 messed up the systems. It affected us at the systemic level. Hopefully, hopefully our country will still remain intact in 2022, which is not guaranteed, to be honest with you. And President Trump knows this, Joe Biden knows this, everybody knows in positions of power, our nation may not be intact in 2 years. We need to shut all the schools down. We need to shut all the universities down. We need to flatten the curve. I mean, there's no way around it. You cannot have people who are dead working in factories. You cannot have people who are infected with COVID suffering working. I mean, that's impossible. It doesn't matter what you want. People cannot work when they're dead. or when they have COVID. You know, I mean, it's far worse than the flu. They can't work when they have COVID. So we have to flatten the curve. Um, it's a strategy to save our nation. Do you see what I'm saying? Flatten the curve. It's a strategy to save our nation. There's no other way. Vaccines will not work because COVID-19 is mutating constantly. They're obsolete by the time they hit the market. They're obsolete. Even if they had worked in the lab, it's obsolete. Yeah, you got COVID vaccine, great, but make sure you wear a mask because you can still get COVID and die. You know, one of the strands, one of the 1,000 strands. Okay, second article. Yeah, I'm not going to say that's great. To be honest with you, I think that getting a vaccine can actually cause cancer because it messes around with your DNA translation process, and that's how cancers can develop. You could talk to any cancer expert in America. How does cancer develop? Have them explain it to you. And you'll see I'm right. You know how painful cancer is? I mean, geez. I mean, do you rather die of COVID or cancer? I don't know. You know, I think it's easier to survive COVID than cancer. If you get cancer, it's harder to survive and it's far more costly. So that's why I didn't get the vaccine. To be honest with you, you know, I did the scientific research and I could see that the vaccine makers cannot guarantee that it can eventually cause cancer. And I said, you know, if I had a choice of dying, do I rather die from COVID or from cancer? You know, I'd rather die from COVID than cancer because cancer is very painful. And you know, it's not only painful, the treatments are very expensive. COVID treatments are not that expensive. Yeah, I mean, geez, you know, and cancer, you know, it like spreads from cell to cell, you know. COVID, you know, it's not that, you know, it's not as damaging to your organs. You know, if you keep, you could, if you could keep everything under control, even if you get COVID, you can survive it. The cancer, you know, you can't keep it under control. You know, because it's at the cellular DNA mechanism level. And so mRNA vaccines are at the cellular translation level. That's why I consider them very dangerous. They can cause cancer. And, you know, so it's not going to work because, you know, mutations will make the vaccine obsolete. And you're messing around with your cells mutate translation process. How is that a good thing? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's why I didn't take COVID-19 vaccine. And that's why a lot of nurses are not taking COVID-19 vaccine because they study the science, they know this. Second article, why do you think President Trump did not take the vaccine? Because he knows all the data. He knows what can happen. Yeah, he's not stupid. He knows he could get cancer from COVID vaccine. He probably has all the confidential top secret files, you know, that we don't have. Yeah, second article, US surpasses 20 million COVID-19 cases on New Year's Day. Why do you think President Trump did not go to New Year's Eve celebration in Mar-a-Lago? He doesn't want to get COVID and die. You know what I'm saying? Because he knows there are mutated variants, so he could get infected again, even though he had it before. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not a dummy, right? He's smart. President Trump is very smart. A second article, US surpasses 20 million COVID-19 cases on New Year's Day. That's today. Justin Coleman on The Hill. And The Hill is actually in Arlington, Virginia. Yeah, their headquarters is in Arlington, Virginia. There's a lot of reporters, corporate big shots. They're here in Arlington. They work here. They live here, many of them. The U.S.'s coronavirus case count reached 20 million cases about midday on Friday, with the last 1 million cases coming in just 5 days, and the last 3 million cases. Excuse me, it is New Year's, you know. And that's 5 days. And the last 3 million cases, slightly more than 2 weeks, 3 million cases. Geez, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of cases in the whole country of China, in the whole 1 year period of COVID. Do you see? We gotta get perspective on this, you know what I'm saying? More cases means more death. So this is tragic for our nation. The US has recorded more cases than any country, almost double India's total cases, and nearly a quarter of the world's more than 83 million confirmed cases. So 25% of all the cases in the world are in America. Isn't that tragic? It's tragedy. The news also comes a day after Florida became the third state to confirm a case of the new COVID-19 strain, which is believed to be more contagious and was first reported in the UK, United Kingdom, England. The other states that found cases, Colorado and California, first identified their cases earlier this week. Yeah, so it's spreading fast. I'm sure it's far more spread than what it is. It's discovered now because they're looking for it. Number 3, crowded Congress hotel room dispersed by Chicago police on New Year's Eve. Yeah. Because there's a lot of secret parties on New Year's Eve. You can guarantee New Year's Eve is a very important day for partying, for people to have fun, for lovers, for single people. So Chicago police dispersed several people from Congress Plaza Hotel on New Year's Eve because of overcrowding and violation of COVID-19 restrictions. Officers responded to hotel about 10:35 p.m. in the 50 block of South Michigan Avenue and found at least one room that was filled over capacity, according to a police spokeswoman. It wasn't clear there was one party or many in violation of COVID-19 capacity restrictions. Obviously, there were many. That's why I'm saying there's going to be over 10,000 people dying every day per day in the United States in January. Right now, there are 10,000 deaths in like 3 days. So that's going to go to 10,000 deaths in 1 day. Do you see? Especially after all these partying in all 50 states, it may be far more than 10,000 deaths per day. So that's coming in January. So yeah, we're looking at an epic tragedy in terms of COVID-19 death in January. So that's coming in America. I'll keep you informed of what's going to happen and what is happening day to day. This is a daily show meant to save you and your children from COVID-19. So this is the most important show you will see in your life every day. I don't believe the liberal media that tries to say the COVID vaccine will save you. Like, they're ignoring the science that when viruses mutate, they could evade vaccines. Liberal media is not to be trusted. Who got us here? The liberal media. Yeah, so watch this show. You need to be informed, and I give you information you need. None of this liberal media, agenda-driven liberal media that wants to keep everything open lies to you and say vaccines will protect you. That's a lie. Because when COVID-19 vaccine viruses mutate, they evade the vaccine, even if it did originally work. So it's a lie to say vaccines will protect you. That's a lie by scientific definition. So it's a matter of time, even if it works, that you will no longer be protected as COVID-19 mutates. Yeah, and obviously people who are going to die the most are nurses. Nurses are the most vulnerable. Nurses in their 20s can die. Nurses in their 30s can die. Nurses in their 40s can die. Nurses in their 50s can die. Nurses in their 60s can die. A lot of nurses are going to die. I'm Heerak Christian Kim, candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I don't want anybody in my district to die, but I'm predicting based on science, that minimum dozens of nurses will die in every hospital. Right now, there are nurses in ICU rooms in the hospital where they work. Right now, in every hospital. Nurses die. They're not God. They die. Some of them die. I'm predicting that out of 25 COVID-19, you know, 25 of us who graduate from Georgetown University, that none of us will die. I'm hoping that none of us will die. But I'm predicting that at least 20% will die. 5 out of 25 will die if all 25 of us are working in a hospital. And it's going to be like that with all the graduating class of nursing schools in the year 2020. Yeah, it's tragic, but it's reality. It's like when when there's a war and you are a Marine, there's a high chance you will die. There's like 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 chance you will die if you're the Marines invading a country. It's like that with nurses, we have the highest chance of dying. And obviously the most dangerous jobs are emergency room nurses and, ICU nurses. Those are the most dangerous jobs. But I mean, all the nurses, risk COVID-19 infection and death. So I predict 5 out of 25 of us would die. Yeah. In the coming months, throughout the year of 2021. But I think far more than 5 will die. Yeah, I mean, we're basically looking at 3 months of winter. ICUs are full in California. So for next 3 months, people are just going to die and die. Only way you can go to these ICUs is if somebody dies and they put you in the bed where the patient died. That's the only way you're going to have a bed in ICU in California now. So a lot of nurses are in ICU as patients. Yeah, throughout the country. Every hospital, Fairfax Trauma One Hospital in Fairfax County, they have dozens of nurses out not being able to work because they have COVID-19 or they're suspected of having been infected of COVID-19. Dozens, maybe even hundreds. It's like that in every hospital. Dozens to hundreds of nurses are out. They can't go into the hospital because they're either infected with COVID or suspected of having been infected with COVID. Yeah, this is in Fairfax Hospital, Virginia Hospital Center, where I work as a nurse, Innova Alexandria Hospital, MedStar Georgetown University Hospital, MedStar Washington Hospital Center, Children's National Hospital, George Washington University Hospital, Sibley Hospital in Washington, D.C., Suburban Hospital, Adventist Hospital. It's like that in every hospital. Dozens of nurses are not allowed to come to work because either they're infected with COVID or suspected of being infected with COVID. Yeah, it's serious. You may live in your home and none of your children and you may have COVID now. So you may think like nothing's going on, but I assure you, death is knocking at your door. Knock, 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 knocking at your door right now. Yeah, I'm predicting that thousands of children will die in Virginia in the year 2021. Thousands of children will die. Like maybe your child will die from COVID. Because we know children die from COVID. We know that. And not just from COVID, but, MISC, inflammation that is, so your child gets COVID, doesn't die from it, but like weeks, months later, they have inflammation. Yeah. And they die from that. Some of them die from that. So there's long-term damage. No one really knows about how that happens. So, yeah, I mean, your children, many of your children will die. Thousands of children will die in Virginia. That's like, yeah. Yeah, that's expected. Um, Thousands of children will die in Maryland. That's expected in year 2021. So year 2001 is the year of COVID-19 death in America. Um, and we started off on January 1st, New Year's Day, with so many deaths that's reported. And obviously, a lot of people are not reporting it because they're on holiday mode. Um, 2021, 365 days of year where we went thousands of COVID-19 deaths every day. No vaccines will work. Um, I mean, let's say a vaccine actually works against one strain. What's going to happen with other strains? Yeah, getting vaccine or not getting vaccine doesn't really make that much of a difference, in terms of blocking out COVID. Yeah, so let's be honest about this. Liberal media tries to portray vaccine as a savior. It really isn't. I took the flu vaccine because I believe in it, Um, yeah, I believe in vaccines. I've taken all the vaccines that I can take because I believe in these vaccines, But I don't believe in COVID-19 vaccine. It was rushed through the system, it cut corners everywhere, tried to be rushed into the world. Yeah, you can't trust anything that's that rushed. And now they want to inject us and like have us as their lab rats to experiment on and observe, see what happens. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. Oh, this is nice Chinese music. Chinese drum music. Oh, did you hear that? Oh, it's soft mode. Yeah, so I'm going to do a cheer for my fellow CNL 2020 members from Georgetown. We're now year 2021, y'all. I sent my happy New Year's message to our group chat. We still chat through our group chat because, it's great because if we want to organize a reunion, we could do it through the group chat. You know what I mean? Like we could have a first year reunion on August 24, 2021. We could do all that through the group chat because all of us are connected through the group chat. So, yeah. So, so I sent the happy New Year's message in. And several people sent their Happy New Year's message in as well. Like my good friend Tisha sent the Happy New Year's message. She's been a good friend. And we started together in year 2018. And she actually worked at VA Hospital, Virginia Veterans Affairs Hospital in DC as a lab technician. Then she decided to become a nurse. So she has two children, lives in Montgomery County, Maryland. Very nice person. She lives with her mother. It's good to live with your mother, like grandmother. Grandmother takes care of your grandchildren. Like if you need to do stuff, your grandmother can, kind of watch over their remote learning process. It's a smart thing to do. Yeah, I would say bring all your parents who are elderly to live with you. That's a smart thing to do in COVID-19 America. I mean, they have such higher chance of dying if they live alone. Why would you want them to die? Just bring them home to have them live with you. They could take care of the children. They could help, and you could take care of them. It's a mutual thing. They could give you emotional support as well. So you could provide your children with emotional support. Having more adults is better, right? You, your husband, and your mother and father. I mean, 4 adults can take care of children better. So yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend that. But yeah, as I said, I expect 5 or more people to die from COVID-19 out of my graduate class from Georgetown University. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want any of you to die, obviously. But I know that some of us will die. Billy Sneed also sent in his Happy New Year wish. You know, yeah, he's a good guy. one of the three guys, and Brent Allen is the other guy. He didn't send in Happy New Year's. I guess he's happy in South Carolina, doing his own thing, you know. But yeah, yeah. I'm surprised Betsy did not send in Happy New Year's message. She generally does. Betsy, she is one of our fellow CNL 2020 members who graduated, lives in DC, worked for the U.S. government for like 20 years and retired. And she was a really smart CNL 2020 member, one of the 25 who graduated. So yeah, so she generally like sends in like nice witty messages. But yeah, maybe she'll send it a little later. But hi Betsy, hi Tishan, hi Billy, Happy New Year's. I was the first one to send a message, Happy New Year's message. I want everybody to be happy in the new year. So obviously there's going to be COVID-19. Obviously there's going to be a lot of people die, but you still have to find your happiness, right? What are you going to do? Be sad and mopey the whole year? You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to do a cheer for all of us. Yes, we're facing that yes, probably 20% of our CNL class will die from COVID, working in a hospital, but we still have to find our happiness, So CNL 2020, CNL 2020. Yay, we graduated from Georgetown University. Yay, we may die from COVID. We may die from COVID in year 2021, but we graduated from CNL 2020 on August 24th, 2020. And now we can say it was last year. Yay. Yeah, you have to find happiness in the midst of all this tragedy. Because people will die. Your child may die. Your best friend may die. People who are dear to your husband may die. But what are you going to do? Like live in tragedy all your life? You have one life to live, that's 100 years. Tragedies come and go. You got to find happiness. I choose to find happiness in Jesus Christ. I'm a true believer, born again. Jesus gives me happiness, and that's that's one of the greatest things about being a Christian. Is Jesus is God, so he's everywhere, and he knows exactly what you want, you need, what you're thinking, what you're doing, and he brings you joy and comfort, and obviously. It's the joy that the world doesn't understand. And there's a song like that, right? And so when Jesus gave his parable of the rich man Lazarus, like a billionaire, and the poor man Lazarus, who was a homeless man, who lived on the steps, outside the door of the rich man's house. He talked about how when they both died, Lazarus, the homeless guy, who was a true believer, went to heaven. But the rich man, the billionaire, he went to hell. And, so Jesus' story is very interesting from several perspectives. One is Jesus did not condemn poverty. You know how, some preachers go off on poverty? Jesus did not care about ending poverty. Jesus did not care about, helping the poor get out of their poverty. Jesus didn't care about that. Like, how do we know he didn't care? He never preached against poverty. He never condemned, the society for social inequity causing poverty. Jesus never preached that, and so there are all these fake preachers, who use the Sunday pulpit to preach about ending poverty, which Jesus was not interested in, but they go off and off on preaching against poverty. And that's not the gospel. Gospel doesn't care about the poverty. Gospel doesn't care about ending poverty. That's not part of the gospel. But, you have these people preach it like, their social gospel, liberal gospel, like helping the poor is the most important thing. That's not true. Jesus never helped the poor. Jesus never preached that you should help the poor, So these preachers who are liberal, they preach the social gospel of ending poverty. They're preaching another gospel, and they're not preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ did not care about ending poverty. The story of the rich man and Lazarus, the homeless guy, shows us that Jesus did not care about poverty at all. He didn't want to end poverty. He never went off on a tirade about how evil it was that the rich man did not help the poor Lazarus out of poverty. That wasn't, Jesus is not interested in ending poverty. Jesus doesn't care about that. What Jesus cares is that Lazarus was a true believer. He wants you to accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior and become born again, right? That's what Gospel of John 3:16 is talking about, right? It's not talking about ending poverty. It doesn't say God, for God so loved the world, God decided to end poverty. God could do that with a snap of the finger, right? God can end poverty with a snap of the finger. He doesn't do it because he doesn't care about that. God doesn't care about ending poverty. So when preachers start preaching against ending poverty, they're preaching another gospel. They're not preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because God doesn't care about ending poverty. God doesn't want to end poverty. That's not of no interest to God. Because God can end poverty like this. He doesn't want to. And so the parable of the rich man and homeless man Lazarus shows us that Jesus doesn't want to end poverty. Jesus doesn't care about ending poverty. That's not part of the gospel. So it's a very important point for Pope Francis to understand, and all the bishops in the U.S. Conference of Bishops to understand. Jesus is not interested in ending poverty at all. That's not part of the gospel. And obviously that's something for all Presbyterians to understand, all Methodists to understand, all Baptists to understand. Jesus is not interested in ending poverty. That's not the gospel. So you shouldn't go off and preach against poverty. That's not what God wants you to do. So that's what the parable of Lazarus and the rich man shows us, that Jesus doesn't care about ending poverty at all. So now we've talked about two things, right? Jesus doesn't want to end poverty, but Jesus wants you to accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, right? I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me, right? Jesus wants you to believe in him. So we see that from Lazarus. Lazarus, who believed in Jesus, went to heaven, but a billionaire who didn't believe in Jesus went to hell. So we learn a lot from the Gospels, from the Bible, and it's important to get the cue from the Bible. What you want to preach on Sunday, if you're a preacher, or what kind of policies you want to focus on, has to be dictated by the Bible. If your policies are related with church, right? If you're a pastor of a church, you're a deacon of the church, or archbishop, cardinal, or pope, ending poverty should never be your priority. Jesus doesn't care about ending poverty. He doesn't care, right? He's not going to save you from your poverty. That's not his interest. What he wants to do is to make sure that you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, so that the gospel is there for you. Jesus never said, going to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, ends of the world, and end poverty. Jesus doesn't care. Jesus doesn't want you to go and end poverty anywhere. That's why I think it's a waste of life if you volunteer to end poverty in different parts of the world. I think that's a waste of a life. I personally believe that's a waste of life. Because that's not what Jesus wants you to do. I mean, you could choose to do that, but I think you're wasting your life if you go to another country to end poverty in another country. I think you're wasting your life. I think it's sad that you're wasting your life like that, because that's not what Jesus wants you to do. But Jesus says, going to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, ends of the world, baptizing them in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. So even though God doesn't want you to end poverty around the world, God wants you to convert people to Christianity around the world. Obviously, when you baptize them, they converted from their religion to Christianity. And that's what Pope Francis needs to understand, that God doesn't care about ending poverty. That anything he does to end poverty doesn't please God at all. What pleases God is Pope Francis trying to convert people of other religions, whether it's Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, or Buddhism, or atheism, and then having them baptized in the name of God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. That's what God wants from Pope Francis. That's what pleases God, not ending poverty. Ending poverty does not please God. And so that's a very important thing that everyone needs to understand, because gospel is there in print for us to understand what God expects from us, what God wants from us. And there are too many evangelical preachers who have gone in the wrong way, trying to end poverty when that's not God's priority. God wants the gospel preached. Gospel is not about ending poverty. And I think this is where I disagree and condemn Franklin Graham and the Samaritan Purse. I think he's prioritizing helping people too much rather than preaching the gospel to people. Because when he tweets, he talks about how he helped these people from a hurricane or a storm or COVID in New York. And he's a preacher, supposedly dedicated to global missions, but he doesn't talk about converting people to Christianity. So when I receive his tweets, I'm kind of puzzled. What is your priority here? Obviously, I respect Reverend Billy Graham, his father, tremendously, because Reverend Billy Graham always prioritized the gospel. He didn't try to feed the poor. That wasn't his interest. His interest was just sharing the gospel. And I think Reverend Billy Graham most embodied the principles of the gospel, because he wanted to convert people to Christianity. He did not want to feed the poor. I think, there is a room for feeding the poor. I would like to create hospitals in India, like Christian hospitals attached to the Presbyterian denomination that was founded there by the Korean Presbyterians. Indian Presbyterian Church is all Indian, but it was originally founded, or Korean Presbyterians helped them to found it. So I'd like to start a hospital that's attached to Indian Presbyterian Church. So it will be a Christian hospital with a cross in every room, and a Presbyterian chaplain, only Presbyterian chaplain. It will be a Presbyterian hospital with only Presbyterian chaplain. So, people who don't want that service don't have to come to a Presbyterian hospital. They go to another hospital, but so you'll be a private Christian hospital. And my dream is for the gospel to be preached. So the chaplains will visit every room and share the gospel every day. So that would happen in the hospital that I envision building in India. So yes, we would welcome Indian, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Jains, atheists, Sheiks to our hospital, but we will tell them. It will be informed consent. We'll tell them before they're admitted, or in the admission process, that this is a Presbyterian hospital dedicated to helping the poor in healthcare, but also sharing the gospel. And sharing the gospel is a priority higher than healing or helping the poor. So they'll know that there will be a chaplain coming to their room every day to share the gospel with them. Because obviously, I would want to build a hospital in India and receive donations from Presbyterians all over the world for this very purpose. So we will reject millions of dollars in donations from atheists and Jews who want to help the hospital, who do not agree with our mission. I would reject millions of dollars in donations. So let's say Larry Elliston, I think is Jewish, wants to give $100 million to my hospital in India. But his stipulation is you cannot have a chaplain visit every room in the hospital to share the gospel every day because I'm Jewish. I would reject $100 million because what's the point? The whole point of creating a hospital in India that's attached to the Indian Presbyterian Church is to share the gospel. So it would be Presbyterian Hospital Bangalore. And if we're not creating the hospital for the sake of healing people, that's not the priority. I mean, obviously I want to help provide healthcare services to poor people, but not if they are not willing to receive the gospel. I mean, and that will be clearly spelled out at the hospital. If you receive the hospital services at the Presbyterian Hospital of India, Bangalore, then you will have to hear the Presbyterian chaplain every day. Yeah, we'll have a schedule rounding a Presbyterian chaplain in every room every day to share the gospel for like 15 to 30 minutes. So they have to agree to that to be treated. And hopefully we could provide free service to every patient, ideally. But, or minimum pay, but probably, free service, hopefully if we could, through donations of Presbyterian or all Christians, I mean, obviously Christians donating will understand that this will be a Presbyterian hospital. So, I mean, you could donate as a Catholic, Methodist, Baptist, but it will be a Presbyterian hospital. So that's what I envision building in India. And I want to build these hospitals in every single third world country, and I mean, India is a big country, so it's like, you could have many hospitals. So hopefully God will send me people who think like me, who have my same vision, to work with me to build these hospitals. Because I think that it's cheating Christians to receive their money, their hard-earned money, thinking that they're giving money to a Christian missionary organization if I just provide healthcare services and there's no sharing of the gospel, then it's like fraud, right? Because these American Christians have worked hard, and they're giving money to, let's say, this hospital, Presbyterian Hospital in Bangalore, thinking that it's a missionary work, and all we do is heal people. We never share the gospel, then it's fraud. You see what I'm saying? So we need to prioritize the Great Commission first and foremost. That's why, obviously you have to be honest and have full disclosure. So at admissions, the admitting staff in Bangalore Presbyterian Hospital will say, we are going to have a Presbyterian chaplain come to you, share the gospel every day, and you cannot turn him away. You have to let him speak for 15 minutes, and then you don't have to accept anything he says. You could reject everything he said, but you have to hear him out. So that would be a condition for admissions at the Presbyterian Hospital. So that would be, that's my vision for a set of religious hospitals that we'll create in third world and in inner cities and in rural areas, because I want to create hospitals in inner city and rural areas. And if they don't want to hear the gospel, then they won't be treated in the Presbyterian hospitals that we'll set up. It's about informed consent. If they want to be treated, then they will have to, agree to that. Yeah, so that's something that is very important to me as a Christian in terms of long-term vision. That when you build yourself as a Christian missions work, the Christian missions is actually done, right? Because you're taking donation from private donors for this private hospital, which is a private religious hospital. And if you don't share the gospel, then obviously What is that? You see what I'm saying? And I think, this is where I don't really respect Reverend Franklin Graham, because I don't think he makes it clear. I don't know what Samaritan Purse does, I know they help people, but what separates Samaritan Purse from, let's say, a secular organization that helps people? I don't know. Because, I don't have any information on that. Do they share the gospel every day with people they're helping? I mean, how do they go about sharing the gospel? They don't really talk about that. That's why I haven't given any penny to a Samaritan Purse. Because before I know that my money is going to go to advancing the gospel, I'm not interested in giving money. This is why I never give money at Giant. They have Giant checkout counter, and they say, "Oh, you want to donate $2 to breast cancer?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I want to end breast cancer, but I'm not a rich guy. I rather give my money to the church." And I tell people there, I say, I give my money to the church. And, my church gives money to missionary organizations, domestic missions, or foreign missions that share the gospel, and also has medical missions as well. And so, yeah, so I never give money. I don't even give a penny at the checkout counter at Giant or Walmart. I'm not interested in giving money for the sake of giving money. I'm not a rich guy. I need money for myself to survive. But, I'm willing to give money to gospel work because that's important to me. And also we have to give 10% of all we make to God's work. So we have the tithe, right? I'm not going to give my 10% to secular organization like Giant. Who knows what they're going to use it for? You know what I mean? So I never, ever give money, when like at a grocery store, never, ever. It doesn't matter how good of a cause that they build themselves to be, I never give it. Because I want to give my money, little that I have, to advance the gospel, And so, yeah, I mean, I'm, as you know, I'm running for U.S. Congress under the motto, America Back to God. And when I say America Back to God, I'm talking about Jesus Christ. So I do not hide this fact. A large part of the Republican Party would agree with my vision of America. And I rather shift a Republican Party to my vision than other people's vision, because the Republican Party is diverse. I've been a lifelong Republican. My family's all Republican, lifelong Republicans. And the Republican Party that I love is the Republican Party that wants to bring America back to God. Not a bunch of these weirdo Republicans who are like Democrats in, Republican clothing. I don't consider them really as Republicans, I'm going independent, obviously, I've gone independent for 2020, but I may go Republican for 2022 because my vision for the Republican Party is how I want to make the Republican Party in the state of Virginia. Yeah. But, if I can't do that, I run as independent or create my own party, So, I'm still praying about it. Let's see where God leads. If God leads me to run for Republican primaries, which will be around March 2022, I will. I like everyone in the Republican Party because I was active in the Republican Party areas. I like everyone that I meet in Arlington Republican Committee, Alexandria Republican Committee, Fairfax County Republican Committee, Falls Church Republicans. I like all of them. So personally, I like them. And I've shared my vision for America, America Back to God. And, most of them agree, some don't. So I feel like I can make Virginia's Republican Party in the way that I would like, and there are a lot of people who would support me in that. So that's how I feel. So that's why I'm considering running for the Republican primary for U.S. Congress of Virginia's 8th District in March 2020. But let's see, I'm praying about it. Maybe God will not lead me in that direction, So, we'll see. But right now, currently, I'm running as an independent. for U.S. Congress of Virginia's 8th District. And obviously everything I say here is protected by the First Amendment and civil rights laws of the United States of America. So you can't discriminate against me on the basis of my religion or political affiliation. I'm independent, I'm politically affiliated to myself. So civil rights laws protect me. You know, one of the things that, you know, people in America like about America is that their religious views are protected, right? You know, my political positions are protected by civil rights laws. And, you know, yeah, I mean, you know, some of you may not understand that, but yeah, you could be federally charged for violating my civil rights laws. Everything I say here is protected by civil rights laws by definition and First Amendment. Yeah. So, you know, I know like there are a lot of people who are ignorant of laws, you know, but yeah. And there are a lot of people in Virginia's 8th District who agrees with me and decide to politically affiliate with me. And if you discriminate against them on the basis of their political affiliation, then you're violating civil rights laws for which you could be prosecuted. You know, and go to jail for, actually, you know. So yeah, I mean, you know, I know, you know, there are a lot of people out there who don't know the law. Your ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you violate my civil rights, you could end up in jail. But, you know, I'm a nice guy. I don't want you to end up in jail for out of ignorance. You know, you break the law, ignorant. That, you know, I'm protected by civil rights law. People who follow me in Virginia's 8th District are protected by civil rights law. I don't want you to end up in jail violating civil rights laws, you know? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm a nice guy, you know, I'm just looking out for your interest in case, you know, you don't know the law. But yeah, ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you don't know this law, you still can go to jail for it or, you know, be punished for it by law, full extent of the law, you know, federal law. Yeah, anyway, yeah, I mean, I know like over 50% of the Republican Party agrees with me. And you know, there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party who agrees with me too, you know. You know, people who vote Democrat don't vote Democrat because they agree with everything Democrat politicians say. You know what I mean? Some people vote for the Democratic Party because, you know, for economic reasons or for, you know, because they've always been Democrats, you know, and they haven't really switched over yet, but they actually think more like Republicans. You know, there are a lot of people like that. You know, when Ronald Reagan ran for president, you know, FDR, Democrats, a lot of them shifted over and voted for him and changed parties to become Republican. Yeah, the South was all Democrat before Ronald Reagan, right? Yeah, everybody in the South was Democrat. I think majority of the party, majority of the people in the South were Democrats, and then they switched over to Republican Party. These things happen. Yeah, everywhere. People are, you know, people change based on their, you know, beliefs or value system. Yeah, or identity or their, you know, whatever. You know, people change their views all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Should I create a new party? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you're protected by civil rights laws. So politically affiliate yourself with me, Heerak Christian Kim, for U.S. Congress of Virginia's 8th District. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are ignorant of the laws. You know, they get into trouble like that, you know. They think like they look with tunnel vision. They think like they're right. And then everybody thinks like that. You know what I mean? That's why there's civil rights laws for people like you who think like everybody should be like you. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, especially liberal progressive, they think like their ethical system is like everybody's ethical system. No, I reject the liberal progressive ethics. I think it's corrupt, immoral, and it's dirty. I reject liberal progressive ethics. It's not my ethics. Yeah. So accept my ethics, everyone. Go with my ethics. Let's rebuild United States of America according to my ethics. I want to unite United States of America under my ethics. You know, I reject, you know, Joe Biden. I'll never unite with Joe Biden. But I want every one of Joe Biden's supporters to unite with me in the America that I want to create, one nation under God. How do you like that, Joe? Tin Man Joe. Tin Man Joe. How do you like that, Tin Man Joe? So yeah, I mean, like these liberal progressive, this like tunnel vision, they think like they're God or something. Like we have to agree with their ethical system. I'm like, I reject your ethical system, liberal progressives. I think it's dirty. I think it's immoral. Uh, you know, I think it's unethical. I think it's unscientific. I reject your ethical system, your whole ethical system. I reject it, liberal progressives. So yeah, as you can see from this show, gospel of Jesus Christ, gospel of Jesus Christ. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Isn't it great to be in America? What I call Christian America. Yeah, 330 million Americans are Christians. So, most of them agree with me, to a small or great extent, they agree with me, like politicians, they like have a ton of vision. These liberal progressive politicians think they're like God. They think like we all need to follow them in their ethical system. Like, what the hey? What the hey? That's what I say. I have my own ethical system. Hey, don't try to impose yours on me, liberal progressives. You know what I'm saying? I mean, geez, for God's sake, my ethical system is protected by the civil rights laws. What the hey? Don't you see the clocks melting away? Yeah, I'm glad that you tuned in to my show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak, and reject the claims of the liberal media because they're lying to you when they say vaccine will work. They're unscientific. They're like people in the dark ages, like, oh, yeah, this is going to work. Oh, yeah, this is going to work. They're going on like blind superstition that vaccine is going to work when science proves them otherwise, that viruses mutate, can evade antibiotics or, like MRSA or VRE. I mean, they reject the science, these liberal media, they're superstitious, like dark age, what I call dark age liberals, Come into the light, come into the enlightenment. Aufklärung. Yeah, so, well, anyway, yeah, so tune in tomorrow because you're not getting the truth from the liberal media. I give you the truth. Heerak Christian Kim, candidate for U.S. Congress. I am interested in saving our nation, United States of America, and you and your children. That's why I'm running for U.S. Congress. So vote for me, support me, fight for me because I fight for you. Help me so I can help you. Virginia's 8th District, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. Yeah, but when I become U.S. Congressman, it'll be for all of the states, because it's national, federal office. So yeah, so vote for me, and I will save this nation. It only takes one person, one leader to save a nation. You know that, right? I mean, I'm a historian. I've seen many cases of one person saving a nation. That's me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I can save this nation. Yeah. But if you don't want your nation saved, well, what can I do? What can I do? I'm just putting myself out there to save our nation. If you don't want our nation saved, hey, if you want people like Andrew Cuomo to open schools and spread COVID-19 infection, not to have quarantine New York, so COVID-19 infection spreads in all 50 states. Hey, yeah, you support Andrew Cuomo and the Democrat governors like that. Yeah, go on supporting them. Yeah, COVID-19 is going to be forever with people like that in power. I'm just trying to end COVID-19. You see what I'm saying? Right? I'm just following the science. Right? Shut the schools down so your children don't get infected. I'm just using scientific principles here. You know what I'm saying? None of this like superstitious liberal progressives, dark age liberal progressives who follow their superstition. Vaccine's gonna work. Yeah, it's gonna cure everything. Yeah, it's even gonna kill you like diabetes, and it's gonna kill you like the mole on your neck. You know what I'm saying? These liberal progressives are, they're like dark age liberal progressives. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like ironic when they say liberal progressive. I'm like, that's so funny. It's so ironic because they're not progressive at all. They're like regressive. They regress to dark ages, you know? So yeah, so liberal regressives. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, so I'll fight for you. So you fight for me so I can fight for you. Fight for Heerak, fight for Heerak, fight for Heerak. Yeah, so you know, I had a lot of supporters in the police force, in Arlington County Police Department, Alexandria City Police Department, Fairfax County Police Department. You know, I have police officers supporting all over the nation, all over the world. And I have gangsters who support me all over the world, you know, because, you know, I'm all about the truth. You know, when it boils down to it, we are all human, whether you're a policeman or a gangster, you know, you want the truth. You don't want like all these people lying to you. Doesn't matter who you are. On the both side of the fence of the law, everybody wants truth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so yeah, I have very wide support in all sectors of society. Because I am about saving your life and giving you truth. Why wouldn't you want that, you know? I mean, why would you want people to lie to you and say vaccines are going to cure everything when you know it's a lie? And whenever people build themselves as like, oh, vaccines are going to cure everything, it's going to like make everything normal. It's obviously a lie. I mean, geez, you know, I mean, geez, are you kidding me? Yeah. Yeah, so yeah. Anyway, you know, tune in tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. And I'll provide you with the truth that you need to survive COVID-19. I tell you the truth about what Jesus said in the gospel, right? I'm not lying to you. I'm not trying to like screw with Jesus's words to fit like some social gospel agenda, you know, and I just present it like it is in the gospel, you know, warts and all, so to speak. COVID-19 vaccine cannot cure warts. Yeah. Liberal media, you know, I don't believe in the liberal media. Yeah. I reject the liberal media, and so should you. Yeah, anyway, yeah. So I'm glad that you tuned in today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I hope that your family will be well, and that your children will be well too. See you tomorrow. Bye.